Hello everyone, this is Dutch. Welcome to my well, my first live stream on YouTube. I'm usually live streaming on Twitch, haven't done it in a while, but I'm planning to take that back up again. But until then, on YouTube. And today's is going to be about drawing a variant cover. This is one of the pages of my fourth issue of my comic called The Wayfarer. I'm in the process of coloring it. A little background about me, I'm a professional comic book colorist, flat colorist. I've been doing it for over 6 years on the hi-fi design color team, as well as covering other industry artists as well, doing their flats. Most artists I work with do their own rendering or making the picture look beautiful. So they hire me to do the flatting because it takes time, and once I get that finished for them, adding basically the background colors, they can then go in and manipulate and change it. I'm able to do that for them at a rather quick pace to meet the deadlines. I just finished doing one now that it's been shared by Mark Brooks, the Fantastic Four 60th cover. So that was a beautiful piece to do. It's kind of sad because I know, like, luckily he's got I guess there's going to be a variant cover without the 60th in front of it. But I was kind of shocked because, like, there's Frankie and Herbie and Power Man, Luke Cage, and you can't see them. So they're all covered up by the red of the 60th. So, but yeah, this is one of the pages, my ninth page. But I'm actually going to work on the cover. I'm probably going to do this for a quick, half hour here, just as a kind of seeing how this goes. Yep. Sorry about this. And right now, one of the things I'll do on this channel is, at the moment, I'm going through and flatting this beautifully done piece by Tone Rodriguez. If you haven't followed Tone, it's at Tone Rodriguez 2000 on Facebook. So he did this cover remake, and it's just fantastic. So I'm going to go through how this is all flatted and go through how you can be a better, faster flatter, and then I'm also going to start coloring it. And I'm doing a mix of the hi-fi method and other methods I'm learning from various colorists as well. So I'm going to try that with different people on here. Spidey might have a different, just to see how it feels, but more likely go through my thought processes on that. And I do have a GoFundMe at the moment, trying to buy a new large size printer. Last year, when COVID happened, unfortunately, my plans for getting a new printer last year kind of fell because a lot of shows weren't happening, so a lot of revenue coming in wasn't there. But now that we're getting back and up and running, I really do need to get this printer for a lot of the key artwork I do for TV and movies, and for clients as well. So any assistance you can provide would be greatly appreciated. $5, whatever. But yeah, so I'm gonna go through this. So this is gonna be later on. I'll probably cover this. Did make a video of doing this. I just have to go through and edit it and do a voiceover. But more likely, I probably would do a live coloring of this here. And this is the Wayfarer. So this is my main character, Amia. This is a homage to an Adam Hughes, I think it's the Zatanna cover, or Catwoman, sorry, with Zatanna on it. And this beautiful piece, beautifully done by him, so I'm hoping I can do it some justice here. But yeah, the Wayfarer right now, the first 2 issues are on Webtoons. You can catch that for free. I did introduce the colored versions, starting even with the 3rd issue, on Webtoon, but now that we're coming back to normal more likely what I'll do is for the first six pages of every issue will be color and the rest will be black and white. So I'm going to go back to that format. It's not a Webtoon standard, but or I'll continue putting in color, but when I do the coloring I do it in two different stages. I do it as cell shaded, and then the full-on blown version, nice, nice colors and everything, highlights, so you can get more bang for your buck off the printed version than off the Webtoon. So yeah, I have been doing this, and I've got some of my artwork, personal pieces, etc., flashing up there. And I'm thinking of this. The method I use to draw is I'm not a big fan of the Loomis method. Even with the heads, it's great for if I'm drawing a head-on pose like this, where they're the classic 6 or 7, 8 heads tall. But with the Loomis method, it uses cranium. Draw another. So I'll put this another color here. Put a shocking red. So cranium. And each one of these from here to the pit of the neck, that's about the average height. So if you were to take a look at somebody's photo and measure from the pit of the neck, the V part here of the neck, where between the clavicles there's a space, probably it's usually about an eye wide. If you take from there to the top of the head, and also if you look up Robert Beverly Hale, or Proco did it best, and I don't know if there's a way for me yet to add that. I think there's a way after I'm done with these YouTube. I can then add a video on there referencing back. But that's where I first learned of it, and I thought it was fantastic because then it helped me with figure out foreshortening. Oops, I was supposed to merge that down and then transform. So actually we'll duplicate this. I'm going to make this another color here. So you can tell the difference. So roughly, if you were to look at this and do the measurement, and again it changes with people just like with the Loomis method, but this now tells me if I was to do this in foreshortening, I can then figure out how many boxes. So it would be, in this case, I would have 2 boxes, because, dang it. And we'll duplicate this again. I was hoping to actually put it up here, but I was having a hard time figuring out how to stream to YouTube. I had my Twitch account, I guess, connected. I had to log out of that on Streamlab OBS. But here we go. No, she doesn't have 4 female breasts here. She's not the 3-breasted woman from Total Recall or Star Trek, The Final Frontier. But if I was to draw this, then, with the character, I figure out what's going on now. Oh, I see why. I'm still in locked mode, transparent. So why I like this method is because if I'm drawing a character in foreshorten, we're looking down at them. The Loomis method, the 8 heads thing no longer applies. Now I've got to figure out foreshortening, a whole bunch of other rules. But you can also, with this method, if you're looking, especially using a reference, you can measure from the top of the head to the pit of the neck and see, with if you use your fingers, or if you took a ruler, just measured, then measured the actual reference material, you might find that this is where the top of the head hits and this is where the crotch is for the person, because you're looking down at them. Now I can figure out from here, how it's going to look in perspective, and I know that, okay, this is one cranium, another cranium, and now I've got a good idea of how that person looks, and it's really helpful with drawing foreshortened. And Broca's got a good one where he's doing the leg of the person, and it's 3 craniums long, and maybe this person is lifting their leg up. And he's doing the karate kick, the crane kick from Karate Kid #1, Go in the other direction. But this also then would be 3 going down in perspective. But I really like the Beverly Hill method for measuring, especially when you're doing foreshortened characters, and for figuring out, if you're using reference, what somebody's measurements are like, etc. Because I'm trying to get the likeness of the person. Did I this? Yeah, I did. Sometimes the hard part about all this is figuring out which layer you're in. And I should mark them. I'll mark this as red as do not touch, and put that on. So Clip Studio Paint I love using for everything. Make sure I've got this set back to black. And again, this is a beautiful piece done by Adam Hughes. So I'm going to duplicate this layer, and one thing really tough is when you have a bunch of layers, but because as a flat colorist, if you've ever bought Brian Miller's Hi-Fi Coloring for Comic Books, best book out there for this for learning how to color flat, and there's some great artists, I call colorist artists out there that have got some great videos out. I've been recently watching Color by Kurt, or Learn to Color by Kurt, and picking up on Marta Garcia's processes, his thought methods on approaching. I used to, Muhammad Aghdadi had some really great short videos on that. Shelby Robertson has been, who I do a lot of flatting for, has recently been doing a lot of YouTube videos. And so the Wayfarer, this is about, the concept of it came about from a writer, Jeff Danes, and he just gave me an idea. He's like, this idea would be cool to see. But I had to then take it just a little bit further from the original thing. So the first issue's got his original script on it, which was me just showing my sequential work. And I'm actually going to be doing a director's cut of that first issue, because some of the pages, the artwork just did not come out the way I wanted to on paper. Because at the time I was still learning Clip Studio and still learning how to learning the Riley method. Oops. So, and then also finding references. So that was a big thing. And now, of course, once the thing is done, as it always happens, the references appeared like the moment after you've already hit submit on the book. And it's like, I was looking for that reference for this scene, and boom, the moment you sent it off, then it pops up in your feed going, hey, here's some art reference you might like. So I thought that was funny. So I thought I'd do some parts of the book. I did do some redrawing on it before fully colorizing, because originally it was in a black and white concept. It was done very much like a manga, just screen tones. And then I wanted to have something for when I go out to conventions. So I colorized it, and when I was colorizing I did some redraws. So some people out there, you have the original black and whites from con collector's items, because it's changed. And then I haven't changed it, I haven't touched it since. Although I am, for the director's cut, I was still learning how to do lettering for it, so that turned out kind of bad as well. I only made the changes because people were talking about Shelby was doing the same thing on his book. Some of the lettering. So I'm relettering that one, doing a director's cut. It's going to add an extra 5 pages onto it, and that'll be a Kickstarter here soon. But basically, it's going to have on that on that new edition, the additional 5 pages will be what I thought these images should look like. And there's a couple where Amiya, so she's in this world. It's kind of again, this concept came out it's about 5 years ago. So before My Hero Academia or the likes, Black Clover. It it's a magic society, but in this society the magic is something some people can do, others can't. And those that can, they just have it like anybody with talent can have right now. There's people out there who can dribble the basketball, others can't. Others can, make a three-pointer, others can't. Just naturally inclined, gifted athletes, and this is what happens in this world. Some can do some things, but they can only do it on small levels. Those that do higher level magic, or more than one innate ability, they're the truly gifted, the ruling elites, etc. And others have to use talismans, which are unnatural, dynamic tools made from demons, and by them using it enhances their ability. So if they can make a small fire just naturally by themselves with a dynamic tool, they can make a large one, and a longer duration, hotter, etc. And part of the concept with this book, this came from after watching Dragon Ball and Bleach. I just got kind of tired of characters that, push their max, get a superpower, and then it's still not enough to defeat the villain, who's got somehow even a greater power than this new god mode that was just unleashed with them. And in this one, like I said, they have certain people that can do certain types of power levels. Certain people can do certain kind of magic. You know, they can do more than one, like levitation or hot cold, stonework, something like that. And Amiya is like the exception to the rule here, but they don't quite know why. But she is looking for her brother in this world, and I try, like I said, keep it to a point where characters can have, especially the bad guys, they can have a certain power increase. They may be able to do 15 magic spells. Anybody can do a spell with their spell books or whatever, but they can't go beyond that. They can't do it naturally, and most of those spells would end up draining their life force, kind of thing. So there's those that can do spells without the grimoire. There's others that can do it with. And it's a very interesting world. I just kept creating world building on it. And on her travels, Amiya is looking for her brother. She ran away from her grandfather's compound. We find out in the third issue, and she's been tracking the aura of her brother. And encountering people along the way, and in this world she happens to encounter some brothers who have no magic power. They're part of a gang. The reason why is a lot of places that they break into, the gang does have detection for mana users, and because they don't have any, they're able to get in and get out stealing. And if they get caught, the group doesn't go down. But eventually something does happen, and so one of the brothers, Zhao, joins her on her quest, more out of necessity of staying alive, because they fail to get their quota for the gang, end up getting hurt. The older brother Khan, and a bunch of mischief ensues. Different type personalities, the two brothers. I was actually hoping to have the description popping up into the feed, but I didn't get some things figured out correctly on getting this set up for YouTube today. So that's, I'll work out. I'll come back on here. I'll try to do this regularly. I'm also hoping to do more live drawings, sketch comic book covers, things like that. Let me talk over more of this Riley method. I'm sorry if I'm jumping around, my ADD is just spotting things as it happens. I see, oh, I should work on there. I should see this piece. I guess it keeps things interesting, lively. And in fact, I just had to change. I had another title called Demon Slayer Jose, which I had made about 3 years ago, well, maybe 4. The concept, the idea of it all, and then Demon Slayer came out, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is not going to have the similarities to my main character, so I should be fine. And then one of the characters has a similarity to the main character of mine. So I'll be calling it Demon Hunter Jose now. And or Demon Hunters, then Jose. The story of Jose might be the title change. I'm glad I didn't work on its logo, the logo for it, at the same time I did the Wayfarer logo. Oh, sorry, I'm in Arizona, so the pollen down here is pretty bad. And I also have a quarantine cat, and I'm allergic to cats. So the slight hum you're hearing in the background there, that is my air purifier running. And one thing I'm trying to do is teach people how to flatten clip. Clip's got some amazing tools. One thing that's really missing, and I'm begging them to do, is it needs a lasso similar to the lasso in Photoshop. Meaning, if I hold down Shift, I believe, I can then pick up the pencil and make a straight line and put it back down, and then start to do freehand. It's able to switch between a poly and a magnetic lasso or freeform. Once they have that, I think I have to use Clip or Photoshop for work, so that's going to still remain, but I pretty much will start to use Clip for coloring as well. I've just started to delve into it. Usually like the flatting I did for the Wayfarer, for this issue, I did in Photoshop because it was just going too slow in Clip. I don't like, as a flatter, I need to have all the colors butting up against each other, and since they're not butting up against each other, it doesn't work. I apologize for this. Just doing a mic check in the back there, see if it works. So I like seeing the colors butt up against each other, and I'll show you what I mean here. Let's see, is this a good one? So, turn off the ink slayer here. And then we're going to turn off everything else except for the flats. And I'm not going to save anything here. So here's the original flats. As you can see, the colors are all butting up against each other. I'm getting a real extreme close-up. And this is what I like to see, and even hear, Kurt talk about it as well when he's doing it. This is what I like. I don't like having the little artifacting, even though he's grown accustomed to doing it. For me, I still, when I'm selecting it, because the inks, the black lines cover up everything, but if I'm selecting it, an area, I want to be able to, right now with this lasso, I have it set so I can continually add, so I can do something like this and keep adding to the lines to get that effect. But I like to be able to lift my hand off, drag it down. This, if I start up here in Photoshop, I've already started, I'm holding down whatever key, Shift or Option, I think it's Shift. I'm holding on Shift when I lift up, dragging it to this point, and now I've made a line. And I can make another line here. I can pick up and go and do that and keep going around and around and around. And that's what makes me very proficient and fast in Photoshop, is that I've got these little ins and out tricks that work, especially when you're doing multiple green lanterns or a lot of windows. If you haven't, if you look at a comic and you see a lot of windows being colored, like there's like 70 something windows in the from a city, sometimes some colorists will, the next colorist down the line after the flat colorist will just say, I'm not going to render all that, so I'm just going to make them everything in shadow. So all of a sudden that blue that's in the window, or yellow, depending on the time of night, time of day it is all one color. And so it's kind of like disappointing, because I went through and I flatted all that, and it's like now it's something different. Or they're all going to be rendered out, and that's what a flat colorist does. We just make it a lot easier. And when I have it just this one color like that, it's just so much quicker for me, rather than doing the whole flat or fill. And there's tips and tricks between that too. I can do the selection and drop in color, and drop in the color using the fill bucket, so it'll go all the way to the edge and butt up against one another. And there's, like any program like Photoshop, there's more than one way to do it. I just like, at the moment, I'm just used to using a certain method, and I haven't been coloring in this that long, so I've probably been doing it probably for at least a few months, coloring in clip. That isn't a portrait style coloring, that's more comic book style. And so I'm doing it on this issue. So this entire issue so far has been rendered in Clip Studio, and liking how it goes. There's just like one thing that's also missing is the copy via layer. So you do have to do a copy of that flat layer, and hi-fi method, you use the screen brush, or a brush in screen mode, or in screen, to paint in light. And so I'm doing a mix of that plus other methods of, or finding in first the shadow, your ambient occlusion, and then painting in with light, and then doing your secondary colors, etc. So I'm going to go through a lot of that in here as well. Now this hand right here is looking like a Jack Kirby finger. So more like what I'll do here is take a picture of my hand, or I probably bring out the Handy app and figure out how this looks and lighting it. So as you see, the logo for the Wayfarer, it's very Naruto, Bleachish, because it's the genre it belongs to. So if you like those genres, I definitely like this book. I do have to get the up to date on Webtoons with it. I haven't, bit of a family issue going on at the moment, so I had to hold off on the regular updates. Fortunately, I didn't do a scheduling before all this happened. Well, this is the 4th issue. The 5th issue I've just finished writing. My editors looked it over. I'm still waiting to hear if everything is good to go. I'm currently writing the 6th issue as well, so the 5th through 10th issue are one continuous long series on that one, so it's going to be a good little saga going on. You have to have some fun with knights and their lore. Kind of playing on what happened in Radiant with their magic knights or holy knights or whatever they're calling them. Unlike the two, mine don't have issues with that, mana and people being cursed or anything like that, so there's nothing similar and at the name of the knights, that's about it. I've been working on one comic where we've been flatting the blacks as well. So I'm to spot the blacks and then flat them. It's an arduous task, but it really helped build up my muscle memory in my hand. I think this is what flatting is really good for. So if you're an artist, flatting artwork kind of teaches your hand the stamina it needs to keep going. Because you're not only destroying, there's times where you're not just using the poly or magnetic glass, so you're also having to freehand a lot of that. And when you're sketching over some beautiful artwork, really, your hand remembers that. It seems to translate over. Could translate over to your work too. I feel it has for mine. I've worked with some beautiful artists, as well as one I really want to mention, but I'm not going to because I don't want to give people the impression like we're friends or something and I have an in with him or whatever, or use his name to make my own rep grow. That's just not who I am. I only said Mark Brooks earlier because if you ever watched a live stream with Mark, and I'm usually on the live stream as well watching him, I'll say hi and he'd be like, hey, that's Dutch, that's my flatter. So he's mentioned me more than once on his live streams. You can see those. So it's really appreciative of him, giving me a shout out like that. And as well as Shelby Robertson doing the same thing. And her hood. So, if you ever draw any fan art of my character here, she's always got her hood on. It's always covering her hair, sides of her head. In the newest issue, she actually will be wearing a skull cap with kind of a squid motif here, or encephalopod motif. But it's still going to have the tentacles coming down, covering her sides of her head. There's a reason for that, and that's going to get covered in future issues. I have a total for this comic is going to be 50 issues. So up until we get to 10, we'll see what happens there. The next 15 is going to have another little arc. Then it's going to be probably solo single issues after that until issue 25 when we get the big breakdown, the big bad. And then the next 25 is going to be fighting that big bad and overcoming everything, and then finding out more about who she is and stuff like that, and why she's able to do what she can do. And then maybe a one shot afterwards. And then that'll be it. That'll be the wrap up of Wayfarer. I don't plan on going any further. Demon Hunter Jose is also tied into this universe. In fact, Demon Hunter Jose is kind of the prequel to this. So this, just like Star Wars, this came out first, and the prequel, Jose will talk about how we got to this place, and that's going to be set up in the 12th century. So I'm doing a lot of research into clothing, buildings, etc. This is one of those things I need Jimmy Reyes here. I made it nicer for him to see if I can get him to ink something like this. I'm a terrible inker. I bought Jimmy's course to improve, and there's some things he did is like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. So I'm definitely am looking forward to more of his tricks and tips on doing that. Let's see, linear ruler. Is this what I want? And this is one I should have done for this. That. Rather than doing this all by freehand, I had a method and I just totally flaked on it. Now I sound like Drew Struzan right there when he's talking about if you haven't bought his Hellboy video, I'm sorry, Hellfire. I'm thinking Jimmy Reyes' dragon thing and got fire in my head, but in one of the clips you hear from Drew Struzan and his Hellboy is mock-up and demonstration, as he's talking about his process, and he kind of says it in a fun way, but it was shocking for people to hear, like, he traces, and he's like, I do that, because the client needs it right away, and you do this, and you do what you need to do to meet the client needs. So always remember a couple of things you hear from people. Real artists don't use reference, that's a lie. Real artists don't use tools, that's a lie. real artists get no trace. Again, a lie. I don't know how many artists I know that will trace something because it's going to be a little bit faster than drawing it by freehand, because again they're trying to meet a deadline. You know, you have to, you got a deadline, you got to get stuff done. And that's one reason why I like using Clip, is it's got so many different assets you can use, and with that to speed up your process, because you remember those guys over making mangas, they're doing 17 pages a week, I think, minimum, in order to meet their next deadline. That's why they're able to put out things so quickly. So use the tools you have at hand. I actually did that for this comic. That was one of the things that helped, and it helps with creating the scene too. I will quickly put in some models in my pre-sketch, just to get see if the camera angles are right, what I want, spacing, etc. And then Kendry's Draws did a great example of that on his channel, and I will just copy paste that in, put it in place, and it gives me an idea how it's going to look, and then I come in and I will then draw it, and it takes away a lot of the guessing, because I am not a traditional artist. I have never figured out, like Shelby Robertson, he could figure out how to get it perfect on an 11 by 17 or 12 by 18 page. Same with Mark or Adam Hughes or whomever, because they've been in that medium before. For me, I've got white space issues and sizing correctly. Even though if I go through with the thumbnail and have the references and everything, I still have a hard time getting how it should look on a white piece of paper. And digitally, I'm able to, even though this is set to, I think this is 12 by 18 is what screen size is. I do wish there was a button that said, oh, here's the actual real size of it, and I'm sure there is. But, you know, so here's the real size of it, and here's what you're looking at. And then just scan it over and bring it in digitally, and ink it in digitally or whatever. I haven't yet figured out how that looks, but I can do that digitally, and I can place everything in, get it right, you know, give enough room for dialogue bubbles, etc. And then see how it looks, and then if I need to change things, you know, I can always go back to those models and move them around some more. Alright, so I think with this, test stream has gone pretty well. I think I'm probably going to wrap it up here. I'm trying to buy some watercolor paper to do some key art pictures. Post that on my Instagram. So, like I said, I'll try to reference if there's a way after I'm done with this, for the thumbnail and everything. I will try to get that Proco video, add that in here for the Beverly Hale measurement. The Riley method I really do like, just because it figures out the flow. I could never figure out doing the head, round circle, cutting it in half, or cutting the sides off on the ball. I think what it was is it was easy to do for men. With the Loomis method, if you look at his books, it was, you know, even though it's the same method, women have fat in their cheeks, bone structures could be a little bit different, and to get that beautiful look of a woman, the method didn't, it just showed here's the circle method, the head, the basic ball and head sketch set up, and then next page you turn and it's the figure's already done. I think the only place I saw where he doesn't do that is in his How to Cartoon, and in that one you definitely see it there, where he's got the circle or an oval for the cheeks, and so I kind of use that here as well with the Riley method. Once I figured out where the, I'll do another sheet here. So here's, I forgot the name of this muscle. These muscles here that control everything. There's more in here. But in the or the Riley method, this is one of the rhythm lines here, and so this is where you get your cheekbone. And this is where you would add in that fat for some women. So if I was to do Amia's face, and I'm showing some cheeks, I could add it right here. Same thing on the other side. Because then it also helps give some more of her ethnicity. I just realized her nose is off just a little bit. Let's straighten that out. So, a young black lady, she's got to look just right. Angela Bassett, look fantastic. So everything here has just been designing this head to make it look nicer. So I'll have a better description of what the Wayfarer is. You can read that. I still have some setup here to do in YouTube for storing info, and I forgot to put on some music in the background. But yeah, please, as you saw, it's streamerlinks.com/Dutch, D-U-T-C-H, and I'll have all my social media in there and contact info. I'm going to definitely make this a regular thing on YouTube, just to, not here to try to monetize, just to get the word out of the book, and who I am. So as a flatter, so I have some more tutorials coming up. I'm hoping I try to figure out the editing software for that, doing that by hand in between when I'm not flatting for people or doing commissions. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope you check out the Wayfarer on Webtoons. Definitely, if you're on Facebook, it's facebook.com slash artwork, the art of Dutch, sorry. And on Instagram, it's Dutch_arts. The underscore, the line at the bottom. And definitely check me back out. If you haven't already, please click the bell notification and subscribe. And yeah, that's my really messy desktop. I'm trying to organize it right now, and definitely give me a follow. So thank you. Take care and have a good day, guys.